and welcome to our first podcast, which is with the lovely Mike from Browse CIC, which is up in Hull. So today we're going to be talking about asset transfers. So this is going to be a really exciting podcast because I know so many of you who've got community interest companies are really interested in getting a free building in your community. This is possible. It's called a asset of community value, and you can apply to get one for your CIC. So this would then be used for you to run your CIC's community services, your workshops, or whatever your activities are from this building, which would be essentially rent-free, mortgage-free. You don't have a cost to it. Obviously, there's lots to consider here. So by getting Mike on this podcast, I thought it'd be a really great way to sort of open up the topic of this conversation and also hear what Mike's done, so you can pick up some tips and find out kind of what the process was. Just to say as well, please hit the subscribe button if you want to hear more from this CIC channel, but also from our podcast as well, where we cover everything to do with community interest companies, grant funding, social enterprises, and all of that. So welcome, Mike. How are you today?
Hi, Kelly. I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me today.
It's all right. I was so excited to hear about your project. And when you sent me the photos through of the building that you've been given for your brand new CIC, I was absolutely blown away. It's such a unique, beautiful building. I'm just going to show the viewers that now, so you can see what Mike has been able to get as a community asset transfer. So here it is. So do you want to talk me through where this building is, Mike, and what the building kind of comprises of? It looks fantastic.
Yeah, so Scale Lane Bridge in Hull, it was built 12 years ago now. The actual bridge itself was built to actually connect the industrial side of Hull. And then on the top of the pictures, you can see some like beautiful buildings. That's called the Old Town. So that bridge was put in place to actually connect the industrial to the historic Old Town to Hull. 12 years ago, when it was first built, the pod, as you can see on the left, was meant to be a tourist information hub and a cafe run by the local council. It comes to a point when they got a fit out cost, a kind of quote, and I think it was quite hefty, so they didn't go ahead with that. And since then, there's been numerous people, arts organisations, maybe entertained it, local restaurants, and I think they've been scared off by that fit out cost. So I think, being a CIC, I kind of got notified of this building. So I approached the council. I said, I've got a magazine project here in Hull. I've been going for 10 years, just recently converted as a CIC organisation. I've been interested in taking this building on. And being a CIC, I've activated some funding.
And then that's how you can then obviously overcome those other people's obstacles of it being able to access the funding to be able to do the fit out. So this is a really good example. So here we have, and this sort of thing happens all over the place, where there'll be some initial funding coming in. It will do a build. They've got grand ideas of what they're going to do with it. Like in this case, they thought this was going to be, like you said, a restaurant, a cafe, and a tourist hub. So that was obviously their idea. So they built this wonderful structure, and it is absolutely fantastic, but then they have then run out of money. So essentially the council have run out of money for the fit out, and then the other, like you said, the other businesses who have come along have been put off by that fit out cost. So then you get these buildings that are then left empty. So how long, Mike, was this left empty for?
It was 12 years.
12 years. Wow.
It's been 12 years just sat there collecting dust. So.
Exactly. So at that point, that then puts the council into the mindset of like, oh my God. And also, I bet you this got a lot of complaints and raised a lot of eyebrows in the community, because this would have been built with public money. So to have public money build something and then it just sit there, it then looks bad for the council, because then the council, like, they've, essentially wasted public money. This thing's just sat there. So for their point of view, it's in their interest to get this occupied and running, and crucially to be something that would benefit the community. So in comes Mike with Browse CIC, which has only just been set up, and is, as you said, a community magazine. And you've pitched, assumingly then, a pitch to them about what you're going to do. So what did you pitch to them? What did you say you were going to do with the space?
Yeah, so for the past 10 years, we've been running like a print magazine, which is also online. So 10 years of a kind of operation for this year. I started at the CIC, so like I've branded up the CIC as Browse Studios. So like I want a community radio station. I want to be running some creative media workshops like zines, creative writing, podcasting, radio presenting. So where this building's actually located, there's quite a lot of new sort of like development going on in the area. So that will be engaging that sort of like community within about a mile radius.
You're working with
Um,
partners in the area as well. What
Partners, yeah, that's
name
right.
name some of the partners that you're kind of going to be working with? Are they local authorities? Are they private business? Like who's going to be kind of collaborating with you?
Yeah, charity sort of businesses. So like there's a thing called Warren Records here in Hull, which has been going for about 40 years. It's a youth centre where you can go learn how to play an instrument, how to write vocals for like a hip hop beat. So we're going to be working with those guys. There's one called the Goodwin Development Trust, which are quite similar to the Warren, but they do more like media workshops as well and creative job placements. Um, and the local council as well. So this is one thing about this space. I really like it to be a multi-use event space for organisations as well as the council to actually use that for running their own events, workshops, products launches,
Mm.
DJ events. It's
So you're going to be running it, but essentially other people can come in and use the space, hire the space, so it becomes
yes,
multi-purpose. So this is great for the
yeah.
council because they're still going to be able to come in and use it, and other organisations can, but you're the one who's going to be taking over the management. So let's get into the crux of it. So obviously that was your pitch, brilliant idea, great connection with the local economy, the local community. All that was obviously tick their boxes. What did they ask for in terms of like proof that you'd be able to afford to do the fit out?
I think from the fit out cost from I mean, I see one quote from 12 years ago and it was about 254,000 pounds.
Okay,
Um,
quarter of a
I
million. Yeah,
think
it's
from
quite a
that,
bit to come up with.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, quarter of a million. So one thing I've been working with a guy here locally called Neil King, who's partners with kind of like social investment funding called Key Fund and Reach Fund as well. So he's actually like made an agreement in principle with these two social investors. They can fund up to 300k
yeah,
for like a fit out project like this. So
great.
like I said, it's been agreed in principle.
And is
What we
that
have to
a
do
loan or
then
a grant? Just to say,
is it's blended finance. So
blended
that
finance.
could be part loan and
Part.
part grant. So it could be
Yeah,
70% loan, 30% grant, or vice versa.
yeah. Fantastic. So you got the go ahead that you've managed to secure the sort of the funding as part of that package. So the council are going to be happy because you've got the idea, you've got the finance plan in place. Obviously, being a CIC, you're going to be able to also apply for lots of other grant funding to obviously run various different projects as well. So they know that all that's going to come in. Plus, you'll be able to earn some money because you'll be able to rent the space. So did you have to break down like a financial forecast, for like the first 12 months or 3 years? What did you have to give them?
Yeah, for the first 3 years, it's kind of financial forecast and a business plan as well.
Yeah.
So you've got to actually like identify like well, it's kind of projected like in terms of how many higher fees per month like you might want to do. Then you factor that into your spreadsheet. I
Mm.
mean, one thing to watch which might be quite useful is there's another CIC like here in the north called Spark, and
Yeah.
that's in York. So they've got like it's a massive food hall with shipping containers. So I've
Mm.
spoke to those guys how they can make that work in terms of an event space like this. So they would all their bars in this food hall via like a separate like limited company.
Right. So they've got a limited
That,
company within the
yeah,
CIC's
like a
building.
trading arm to their
Yeah, they
company. So
trade
that's
in
one thing.
arms of it. And I think that's
Yeah,
right. So say, especially with these larger structures, you factor that in the business plan that, well, we are going to be renting to certain LTDs, certain sole traders who'll be coming in and using it. And you factor, yeah, all of that income that you're going to be able to get in from those businesses. That's awesome.
that's right.
Okay. So coming off, so that yeah, so like I said, just last look at that picture. I mean, it's absolutely fabulous. There's even a seating area here I can see at the top, so you could almost do live performances outside as well.
Yeah, that's right. So that's like kind of open to the public as well.
Wonderful.
So
And so the public can just come up and have a little look around as well. Like, so you're going to
yeah,
get a
yeah, sure.
you'll get a wonderful footfall from this because you've got this sort of walkway, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like in and around that area, like in the next 2 years as well, and they just signed off like loads of like social housing just to
Yeah.
the left of that like big Premier Inn. Yeah, so there's future scope for even more footfall for like the sort of
Yeah.
bar and sort of cafe area what we've got planned as well.
Yeah. So does this move, this bridge? It looks like it connects and then disconnects. Does it move?
It moves, yeah. So it's I think it's only one of three like oscillating bridges in Europe apparently. Yeah, but it's I think it
Wow.
is quite rare. Like it does move, but
Yeah.
I do remember when it was first open. Yeah, like they did like a demonstration day and like invited people down. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that kind of moves that bridge, but the actual pod like is static. It stays.
yeah. Yeah. It's essentially they've given you a tourist attraction, which is really quite marvelous, isn't it?
Well,
To
this is one thing like I have spoken to the council about. So they said like they'd still really like to entertain that sort of like tourist information hub.
Right, but you could maybe
Um,
have that in a smaller, you could have like, the leaflets for the tourism and stuff like that and then
that's right. Yeah,
information stuff, couldn't you? Yeah, you could
yeah.
easily. And then you can charge them for it.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Brilliant. So, okay, let's come away from the picture and then just talk about then some of the I suppose the other factors involved. So how bad was the paperwork to be able to do this? So you talked about the financial plan and all of that. What other sort of paperwork did they want? And how many directors did they want you to have?
So in terms of directors, yeah, it was at least three directors
Mhm.
to go for like a community asset transfer. Regards to the paperwork, so step one is it's a 12-page document called the expression of interest
Mhm.
for the asset transfer. That's quite detailed. I mean, here in Hull, the document was quite dated, so we're still working on waiting for three of those new sections to be implemented.
Right.
Um, I say locally, I've been getting some help with that by some local charities,
Mhm.
social enterprise groups. Step two is your kind of business planning and your social aims,
Mhm.
sort of like community values, what your building's going to be providing, because the local council are actually passing you over a building
Yeah.
to operate for the local community. So like you have to prove exactly what you're going to be doing, how you're going to engage. Um, Step three is the kind of funding. It's Until we get to that, I'm not too sure how much paperwork that's going to involve.
Mm.
But that should be any time just before Christmas,
Okay.
hopefully.
So when is all this going to be tied up and done then? You said just before Christmas that'll be done. Do you reckon you'll be in by the new year?
Yeah, so I'm kind of aiming for February itself. So
Wonderful.
I've created like a bit of a timeline now until then. In the meantime, I'm going to be running some pilot workshops in
Yeah.
spaces. I'm
Taster
currently
sessions,
working.
pilot workshops, that's always key with anything.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, that's I'm not surprised that you had
pilot
to do that.
workshops
Yeah.
in creative writing. We might do some Zoom workshops, radio presenting, DJ workshops as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's fantastic. So, if you were going to give somebody some advice about how, I mean, this just fall in your lap? Did you have to go and hunt for it? So, to give someone advice, because a lot of our CICs watching are going to be like, well, how do I go about this? Like, obviously, these buildings aren't like, it's not like there's loads of them, like, especially as unique as your one that you've been given. However, there are lots in the community, but how do people access them? So, what's your advice of anybody who would like to get a building in the community for their CIC? Where do they start?
First steps, I guess, is just speaking to your local council. Just kind of find out who's works at the council for their local music and arts kind of managers, and just say, look, I've got this project, which will be serving the local community. Do you have any buildings available for a CAT, a community asset transfer? And just go from there with the council. But then step two is just have a drive about, like in your local areas and towns. if you can see a to let sign on a building, you might think, oh, I'd really like that building for my project. Just find out. I mean, it could be a private landlord. You could approach them to actually take that on for like a peppercorn rent with a view to go in as a community asset transfer.
Mm.
Um, but then you might find out it's actually owned by the council. So then you can go to the council and just present your idea.
Mm. Let me just explain that bit you just mentioned, peppercorn rents. I'll just explain that to everyone watching. So, with some setups, like Mike said, say it's got a private landlord, the building's been empty for ages. You can approach that private landlord and say, look, until you can literally, get this sold or rented, you're in like this, state where you've got this property empty. Nobody wants a property empty. It's always harder. Well, for a start, it can get its windows smashed. You get, all sorts of other antisocial behavior collecting outside. So no owner wants that. To have a building occupied and doing something is always going to be easier for that. It improves the value of that building. So, and makes it more attractive later on as an investment. So you can negotiate with a private landlord a peppercorn rent. Now, it could be that you get a great deal and that the landlord actually is going to give you that for free or nothing or a pound or whatever. For instance, I've just managed to secure a free space in a supermarket, sorry, in a shopping mall. So we've got here down in Penzance, it's like a little outdoor shopping centre. The shops are super expensive, so they haven't rented well. They've been empty for ages. And in the end, the owners were just like, because they've got a lot of housing that's attached to it, so they don't want those empty properties because they're trying to sell houses, or in the structure. So they wanted to get them filled. So they've given me a free space essentially. So I'm not paying anything. Like I said, so that's a free example. Then you may get the example if you get it for a pound or a reduced rent. Then, so that's the renting thing. So there's also that opportunity. So you should always, even if it's a private landlord, it's always worth working out what to do with that. Now, one way to find out who the owner is you can apply to land registry to get the owner's name and address. So you can apply for that, and then you can write to them and try to contact them. Or it may be that they, like Mike said, they've got a buy to let, sign up, so you can obviously contact the estate agents and negotiate with them. And then you got Mike's situation, which is asset transfer. So obviously, with Mike's situation, he was able to hound the council for I think you were looking for a list for a while, weren't you? And then this came
Yeah,
up. Is
yeah,
that right?
yeah. That's right. Yeah. So I was working with somebody who was trying to find out a long list of what might be available, and they sent two or three back, and they were just not suitable, or there was maybe just in the wrong area. So it's just a case of just really not taking no for an answer for
Definitely.
certain people at the council might not see it as a priority because they've got
Mm,
far bigger fish on their plate to get commercial rents. But yeah, just keep hounding them because I think a lot of the times as well. I mean, you might find some councillors might like this as some good PR as well. That's what's really
exactly.
happened with me. Yeah. So
Definitely.
there was
Good PR. Also, it wasn't in, like I said, the council's interest to have this when they've spent public money on it, then empty. So it's this is now a good PR stunt for them to say, oh, we filled it, blah blah. So that looks good for them. Like you said, hounding the councillors, then the councillor, whoever's helped you, gets to put that on their next election leaflet that they got
yeah,
this sort of. So yeah, it was
exactly.
absolutely get in with councillors, and as Mike said, don't take no for an answer. If you just pick up the phone to the council and say, I'm interested in asset transfer. The person on the phone probably won't know what that is. Okay. So it's much better to actually go to your MP or your councillors, get them to do the heavy lifting works and pressure them and get onto them and really nag them about it. Like Mike said, it's not really necessarily a priority for them. So you've got to push it up. Another thing you could do is get a survey together, get a petition to get the local people to say, we want this, we want this project, we want a community interest. Because a councillor, if they see that you've got, a few hundred people signing your petition, they're going to think, oh, that's 200 or so of my voters potentially, so I better take this a little bit more seriously. So put a little bit, put a bit of weight behind it and get a bit of the community behind it. That's always going to be, they're going to take you a bit more seriously when you do that. I also know another example. So my local area had it was an old fire station. It was absolutely beautiful. It's next to the library. It fits in with that architecture of that time. So it's really like the front face of my town. And the building is owned by a private landlord who doesn't care. He is literally just letting trees go through it. He's damaging the structure by just neglecting it. And you do get these structures in the community. Now, my council have been trying to buy that property off him because they will then give it to a community, a CIC or whatever, a community organisation. So that's an instance where the council would actually, if it's in the council and the town's interest, actually be prepared to buy a building off of a private landlord to save the building. So if that building is of, like we said, community value, or it's of like heritage value. So, you never know what's out there. And so definitely have these conversations with your town council, your MP, your councillors. And it sounds like, Mike, who did you get support from? Was that a local organisation that helped you?
Yeah, so it was an organisation called North Banks Forum. So they're a charity and they help local social enterprises
Mm,
set up CIC, set up charities from start to finish, really. But they've got like a lot of experience in grant writing, grant funding.
mm.
Um,
And I
yeah,
wonder if your local, everyone's got a local CVS. So you could potentially go to your local CVS and ask, is there something similar to what Mike's got in your area, where you've got somebody who's trying to actually fill these, old buildings and who's got experience in that. So yeah, so find out what's local, possibly through CVS as well. Amazing. Okay, cool. Wow. Thank you for that. That was absolutely fantastic. I think we've covered everything. And if anyone has got any other questions, Mike is now one of our experts. He has shared with us his forms and everything in CIC Tribe. So you can book a session with him through my plan, through my CIC Tribe. So do go over to my website and message me about booking a call with him. And like I said, we are going to be putting together a pack with Mike's forms, and also I'm going to be putting together some information packs as well to go into a bit more detail of these community asset transfers and the process, and helping you with that. So I hope that was really useful. If it was, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next one. Brilliant. Thank you, Mike.